I have a question for you. Why are Barcelona and Real Madrid overwhelmingly richer than everyone else in La Liga? Is it maybe because they are hoarding TV broadcast money? I mean, just look at the numbers. In the 21-22 season, they earned a combined 320 million euros from La Liga TV rights. When I started the research for this video, I thought I was gonna find some Machiavellian reason behind their earnings. But the fact of the matter is that after hours of reading and doing some math, I was shocked to find out the rabbit hole goes way deeper than that. Hear me out, because these two giants aren't the behemoths that they're painted out to be. Let's begin by establishing that La Liga addresses income disparity in the following way. The regulation says that the difference in income between the highest earning and lowest earning clubs in La Liga should not be more than 3.5 times greater. That is done to ensure fairness among all clubs in La Liga. Let's take the 21-22 season, for example. Rayo Vallecano and Mallorca were the two lowest TV distribution earners at 46 million euros. Real Madrid was the highest earner at 161 million euros, which is exactly 3.5 times more than Rayo and Mallorca. On the surface, this doesn't seem fair. According to Global Sports Salaries Survey in 2019, La Liga earned $1 billion from overseas TV rights and $1.2 billion for domestic. But the devil is in the details. La Liga's TV broadcast international income is highly driven by Barcelona and Real Madrid, and to some degree, Atletico in a far third place. How does it compare to the Premier League? For one thing, the Premier League distributed roughly £2.6 billion, which is about 3 billion euros. In Spain, the lowest earner made 46 million euros, while in England, Norwich City earned 101 million pounds. Why is the comparative relevant? Well, let's break it down. Spanish teams compete against EPL teams in Europe as well as other leagues. La Liga is well aware of what brings in the most revenue for Spanish football. If Real and Barca can't compete financially, they will be diminished, and in time, La Liga's income will dry up not just for these two teams, but for the entire league overall. So, from the start, La Liga, and other leagues for that matter, start off with an unsettling disadvantage. Now, I don't want to say that La Liga is only made up of Real Madrid and Barcelona, don't get me wrong. Mallorca might be a modest team, but if we didn't have 18 more teams, then what kind of a national competition would we be looking at? A league is composed of all of its members, and they all deserve equal respect. Besides, more than half of the TV broadcast earnings come from domestic viewers, where Barcelona and Real Madrid still happen to dominate in ratings, but not to the same degree as internationally. So one question is to ask how to distribute the earnings, and a very different question is asking what is driving those earnings. The fact is that most people across the world tune in to see La Liga to watch Barcelona and Real Madrid. Most fans. Not all of them, but the overwhelming majority do. And domestically, they do get the best ratings as well. Now, I couldn't get really solid data on broadcasting ratings abroad because each country keeps their own data records, and it was very hard to consolidate a number. Instead, I took a much more simplistic approach. I researched the social media volume and Google keyword search metrics to compare La Liga teams. Barcelona racks up a whooping 119 million Instagram followers, only second to Real Madrid's 135 million. Now, I know this might seem trivial, but in today's marketing world, Instagram is a significant sample of popularity of a brand. Don't get me wrong, it does not represent the entire marketing volume of a brand by any stretch of the imagination, but it does provide a sizable sample of how a brand is performing. Maybe not for like Coca-Cola, for example, that has only 2.2 million followers on Instagram, while also being one of the most recognizable brands in the world, much more so than Barcelona and Real Madrid. But for sports teams, social media is immense. When you look at the Google research volume, the story is very similar. Remember that Google drives over 80% of the research market share, including YouTube, which is massive, pushing football content. So back to Barca and Madrid. They have a combined 254 million followers. To put some perspective, the following 18 teams of that season combined add up to 25.36 million followers, and 15.4 million of those belong to Atletico Madrid. What I'm trying to illustrate is that Real Madrid and Barcelona are the primary engines behind La Liga's international brand volume. It might not be a comfortable fact to accept, but it is the way things are. Together, they earn 320 million of the total 1.4 billion distributed in the 21-22 season. That is less than 1/3 of the income. Third place earner was Atletico Madrid at 130 million. You can begin to see why, when you break up the numbers, the story begins to change a little. Now, don't think for a moment that I am basing my entire hypothesis here on social media account. I am well aware the brand volume of any given company goes much deeper than that. So, I decided to create a ranking that values La Liga's teams based on titles won across different time periods. From 1890 to the present, from 1890 to 1955, when the UCL and international football begins. If you're interested in learning more about the foundation of international European football, check out my previous video. And finally, from 1890 to 2000, before the digital age of the internet. What I'm trying to do is measure up these teams against each other over their entire existence to determine at which point Barcelona and Real Madrid take the lead in brand volume and why. You can stop the video and see the values assigned to each competition. For some context, they were given values based on media exposure that prompts brand volume growth. The UCL given the most exposure at 75 points, and some older domestic competitions given the lowest at 5 points. With that in mind, let's begin. From 1890 to the present, Real Madrid leads the charts with a score of 4,190, followed by close Barcelona at 3,360. Third place went to Atletico Madrid at 1,150. Now, I know this was going to be obvious, but it gets more interesting when you start to get into the more modest clubs. Athletic Club came in fourth at 960 points. Near relegation Valencia fifth at 735, followed by Sevilla at 525. Seventh place went to Real Sociedad at 255 points. An interesting team is Villarreal at 11th with 90 points total. Having not won a single major first division domestic title, they're sitting on 1.5 million Instagram followers after the Europa League and UEFA Champions League semifinal run for a second time. You can see how a single trophy elevated them above the rest of the usual bottom table teams, and they rank in social media metrics close to Sevilla with 2.1 million followers, and above teams like Valencia, who have 1.1 million. They also outperform Athletic Club Bilbao, who only have 636,000 followers. Consider this: Bilbao scored 960 on my ranking versus Villarreal's 90 points. Bilbao has 0 international titles, while Villarreal's European performances have already earned them a higher spot in brand volume worldwide. The international success of Real Madrid and Barcelona have given them a foothold as international brands at a scale and volume unlike any of their colleagues. One of the biggest factors that racks up the ranking of Real Madrid and Barcelona was their international titles. Let's switch it up and take a look at my rankings up until 1955. I changed the values of each competition based on media exposure for the time period. Therefore, La Liga gives 75 points, and La Copa del Rey 70 points. The newly founded Latin Cup, or as I like to call it, the Baby European Cup, was already considered. The story is completely different. Our number one spot is Athletic Club Bilbao at 1,800 points. Second place is Barcelona, very close, at 1,790 points. And third is Real Madrid with 1,065. Yes, Real Madrid was not the most successful team in Spain prior to the foundation of the European Cup. Fourth place, we have Valencia at 465 points. So it begs to ask the question, what the hell happened to Athletic Club Bilbao? To make this simple, the European Cup happened. International football happened. Let's take a look at my ranking from 1890 to 2000, right before the digital age takes over. Real Madrid ranked first at 2,640 points, thanks to their 13 major international titles and 50 domestic ones. Barcelona second with 1,780 points, with their 48 domestic titles and 12 international titles between major and minor trophies. Third place is Athletic Club, living off their golden pre-1955 success. Fourth place is for Atletico at 750. Neither of these two had enjoyed international success by the turn of the century. Maybe if Valencia would have won the two lost Champions League finals in the early thousands, we'd be having a very different conversation. So, I have one sad conclusion to make about this whole income inequality matter in La Liga. When you consider the world of marketing and branding before the digital age, Real Madrid and Barca are the beneficiaries of having won internationally. They inherited a fan base that none of the other teams in La Liga had. This might seem trivial, but it truly is not. The consequences of digital branding cannot be undermined. Before, we had print, radio, and live television. After the internet, the market share to be exploited grew exponentially, and with it, the brand volume disparities that were already a trend in football, which in turn has deepened the income gap, making rich clubs richer and poor clubs poorer. Revenue from 2018 to 2022 for Barcelona, according to Deloitte Money Football, is a staggering 1.6 billion euros from commercial deals. That is on average 47% of Barcelona's income. In the same years, Real Madrid earned 1.7 billion euros from commercial deals, averaging closer to 50% of total income. The real wealth inequality comes from brand volume that they're able to exploit. Atletico Madrid, the only close earner in TV rights over the last few years, earned 478 million in commercial deals over the same period, averaging 28% of total income. So you can say they earned it more or less fairly, but to accuse an entire league's inequality on broadcasting distribution is doing a massive disservice to explaining the issue that slowly but surely is pushing La Liga's modest teams to oblivion. Thank you for watching until the end. It means the world to me. If you like my work, you can help me by subscribing and helping me grow this community. In the meantime, and until I see you again, keep footing, futbolero.